What are we talking about today, sir?
Well, today we're not going to worry about anything because we're talking about meditation.
Ooh. So it's like floating versus meditation.
Floating versus meditation. It's not going to be a very in-depth look at meditation. It's more of the question that we get asked, because this is what the fuck is floating. And a common question that we get asked about that topic is whether floating is better than meditation or vice versa.
Floating versus meditation sounds like a kind of tricky thing to talk about. So let's see. Where's your head at then, Mr. Smith?
Well, floating versus meditation can sound aggressive, but what we try to do is answer questions that we get asked in person, or like that people actually ask us, and that's actually a question people will throw out there. And so we like to kind of title these conversations based on how people are actually interested in them. Is that fair? The reality of it is it's not, I'm not going to go through and say why floating is better than meditation, because I don't think either is better than the other. They're actually really nice in terms of supplementing each other. And I think this video will just kind of cover a couple of the benefits of each and then how they actually work together. Why do people even ask this question? Well, floating, although has a variety of different benefits, the biggest benefits is just general like physiological relaxation that can be good for your mind, body, physical, emotional, all of the above. People obviously come in and use floating for a variety of different things. And one of those things is that when you float for long enough, often even during your first float experience, your brain will drop down into something called theta wave state. Whereas when you're sleeping, you produce everywhere from theta waves to deeper delta waves. And anyways, the comparison to meditation is that when you meditate, especially for a longer period of time and you have more experience with it, you can also achieve a very deep theta state, better sleep, feeling a more larger sense of calm, patience, relaxation, and all of the like. And this is such a human nature thing to do, right? Like floating produces a theta state and helps you relax and sleep better and reduce anxiety. And meditation can bring you to a theta state and cause those same things to happen. So which one is better for those things? Which one should I solely focus on and do? And the answer is both are really nice. We obviously love floating because the benefit of floating is, I guess, start off with one of the negatives that often happen with meditation is it's hard to start doing it. You don't know how it's supposed to feel. There's a million different, tips and tricks that people tell you to do it. They just tell you to do it, but you don't necessarily know what's going to work best for you. And so quite often, that
because the world is a noisy place.
I feel that's not at all what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'll just cut this part out then.
I feel that like the world is a noisy place, which is why floating and meditation are both so important. Even if you meditate at home and it's perfectly quiet, you don't have screaming kids or buses or trucks driving by your house or alarms beeping off, then that would be pretty distracting. So even if you have a quiet space in your house, it can still be challenging because we have such crazy thoughts going on in our mind. So it can take a very long time to kind of, in a way, learn how to meditate or get some really strong, like the stronger benefits from meditation. Although arguably, if you just take some time with yourself and kind of breathe, focus on your breath, all that type of good stuff, you're generally going to come out feeling a lot better when you are meditating. But the big premise behind what we're getting at comparing floating to meditation is that meditation can sometimes take a while, whether that's months or years, to really get into like a strong flow of things. The argument with floating and the whole kind of topic of why is floating better than meditation is that floating, quite often your first experience, you can, or at least your first couple experiences, you can quite often achieve a very deep theta state. So another way of on this topic of conversation is you can achieve a very deep level of meditation without having to do anything. Key differences between floating and meditation is meditation, whereas it's a practice of kind of cutting out all the outside distractions as well as the distractions in your own mind to then achieve a deeper sense of self. When you go to floating, we are basically trying to get to that same place, but we just do it a little bit differently, where we leverage the environment and our own physiology to get to that place. And so float tanks, as anybody who's been kind of watching these videos for a while, who has floated with us for a while, know that our facility, or float facilities in general, float centers, they have
and studios,
whichever list of addition you want to throw on there. Float tanks inherently reduce sound, light, feeling of having to regulate skin temperature, even the feeling of what's the kinesthetic awareness. You don't even know where your body's in space.
Nice one.
And so you're pretty much left with your mind, which can often feel quite busy, right? And this is where it kind of falls in the same category as meditation, where it's like, whoa, my thoughts are just constantly coming in. Where the cool thing with floating is, because we're removing so much other stimuli in terms of our nervous system, that our minds will race, and then just shut off. And then that's when you end up going in for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hour float, and it feels like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And that's the beauty of it, because then you come out of this experience and you're just like, holy macaroni. I haven't said that in a couple days.
You're in dad mode.
I am in dad mode.
So the difference between floating and meditation then is essentially just environment, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, floating is quite often looked at as the kind of quick solution to a theta state, where meditation eventually can be a quick way to a theta state, but it takes time to really get good at it, because we're leveraging our nervous systems in the way that we are. It's kind of like I don't want to use the word life hack. It's like a shortcut to that. Key point of why I think it's not the conversation of which one's better is not the right kind of question. The question is, how can they supplement each other, and what's kind of the best ways to incorporate them? I think that's the better question that we try to educate people who bring in that question, or that curiosity, because I think it is a pretty reasonable thing to ask. And the big thing is, obviously we run a float studio, so we love when people come float with us, because for those individuals who don't meditate or are currently learning, or just honestly don't have the time or interest to want to learn, floating can be a really nice source of getting to that more relaxed state, so you can kind of chill out and not feel as stressed. Even if you come and float regularly, we do think you should still meditate daily, or meditate more regularly, because the big thing is, floating costs a hell of a lot more than free. And even though meditation can take a while to really find out how it can work for you, or what's kind of the best strategies or tactics, it's free and you can do it all the time. Thought about talking about this for a while, and I'm sure we're gonna have a more in-depth conversation where I think we could bring somebody in who has really good experience with everything from meditation and breath work. I think would be really, really valuable, because we are not the people to be talking about it. Nope. I've been kind of quote unquote meditating and floating for a very long time at this point, but my version of meditation is really just spending some time with myself for 5-10 minutes in the morning, just setting a timer, and then when I have the opportunity, doing it before bed as well. I just think on a daily basis, well, especially during everything with quarantine and just COVID, that might not be as accessible right now. And so the next best thing is learning how to incorporate a little consistent daily practice, especially when you can't float. And I think it's super practical to do this video now, where people can actually come and float with us right now. And you're spending a lot of time at home, and that can be stressful in its own right. And a lot of, you can just get crazy deep on Netflix or renovating your home, and then lose sight of the fact that you do need to take some time to yourself just to shut off. To summarize, the question is not, is floating better than meditation, or is meditation better than floating? The real question is, how can floating and meditation work together for you? To close things out, thank you for watching another What the Fact is Floating with Matt and JP and his smart aleck comments.
That's me.
That's him behind the camera. But thank you for watching. If you have any other questions related to anything as we fly into 2021, let us know in the comments, and we'll be sure to make a video about it at some point. So check us out on all of our little social medias, and we will catch you next time.